And the next voice you hear after this little bit of music will be that of SOTU. Thank you, Josh. Here we go.
In order to truly understand some of these sorts of things, especially when you are interacting in a complex family dance, a family situation along that, you have to realize that in circumstances like this where someone seems to be overly caring for someone, while the other person is abusing that person or neglecting that person in some way, shape, or form, it has to do with the dynamics of karma and karmic debts that are incurred over a number of lifetimes. And karma is not necessarily what you think it is. Karma is a dynamic of personal choice and in a way divine choice, because as you as you pass over, you go through kind of a retrospective on how you lived your life, and you will see all of those positive things that you have done and grown from, but you will see all of those negative things that you have perpetrated as well. And generally speaking, in that sort of when you are on the other side, unless you are so loaded with fear of death that you instantly are doing what we call a yo-yo kind of incarnation, where you're instantly moving from one incarnation to the other because you're so afraid of the dynamic of death that you don't want to stop for even a millisecond in order to perceive what that might be. So there are so many in your world that just go from incarnation to incarnation. But most of you understand that the dynamic of passing over into the other side is just a dynamic of a continuation of life. So when you get to those situations and you realize that, let's just take a love situation where you may have promised fidelity to someone in a lifetime and been anything but. In that sort of dynamic. Is there a karmic debt to pay? Well, that depends on how much damage was done to the other. You only can damage someone when you deceive them, when you lie to them. So if there was a great deal of lying, a great deal of deception, then you and that other energy might feel that it is important that you balance things out in an upcoming lifetime. You just need to understand that it's so much in these sorts of situations where you're only thinking about this particular lifetime, and you're wondering about the very complicated and complex interactions that people may be having. There's usually a lot more to it than meets the eye, and that's where as you look within. In those sorts of dynamics, if you can have a situation where if you can see other people's energies, you might be able to discover that dynamic for yourself. But the universe seeks to find balance, and so a situation would be like, if you murdered a person in this lifetime, we wouldn't be surprised if you don't get murdered by that person in another lifetime. There's only one way to shift and change it. We would ask you, how does it emotionally affect you? And you have to understand that their reflection in your reality triggers you, causes these uncomfortable uncomfortable feelings because you have not resolved your healing and moved into forgiveness around the whole dynamics that have occurred and are still occurring because they are your family, after all, in this sort of situation. So you've got kind of an ongoing karmic dynamic, and by knowing that, you can allow yourself to not react in the old ways. Now, this does not mean to capitulate. This does not mean to acquiesce. This does not mean to become weak and complacent in that sort of way. This means that you need to have good objectivity and good boundaries, and realize that they're doing the best they can in their own way. Where you have been an explorer, dear one, and you have, because of the fact that you have been exploring many things, not the least of which has been your own personal psyche. Because of that dynamic, you are much more self-aware than your family, and that's not a dynamic of a better than. And so we would say that so many of you, as you are about to encounter the dynamics of your family over the next few days, that it might be a good idea for you to maintain a certain dynamic of objectivity and awareness, and just not allow yourself to get into those old arguments, those old ways of being and doing that left you feeling negatively. You can say, oh, but my mother always bullies me. My mother always treats me this way without any respect or anything like that. Well, so maybe all you do is you go to neutral. That maybe all you do is you don't react to it in the old way. Maybe you just turn and walk away rather than engaging, or if you are used to turning and walking away, maybe you surprise them all by engaging. The situation is going to be, they're not going to change. They're not going to change. The only person that's going to change is you. You need to wear a bigger catcher's mitt.
What?
We're sorry.
Oh.
We're only laughing at your reaction, at your responses.
Well, why?
Oh, because it's amusing in the sense that you think that you can still fix them somehow, or that somehow that there is something wrong with you, and that because there is something wrong with you that they react in that sort of way. What if they, what expectations do you have of them? Because, dear one, if you have any expectations at all of them, other than they're going to try to be a thorn in your side, then you are having unreasonable expectations. They are who they are. Their reality is what it is, and your reality is what yours is. Are you? The ultimate question comes down to the fact of: are you enough? Are you enough to stand in your truth? Are you enough to not realize that there's nothing you have done or are doing wrong here? The problem is that they are a product of their environment, and their environment was as what's that magical word? As effed up as yours was, but in their own way. And so, because of that, they have a different journey. They have a different karmic journey than you do. And a lot of the times, families get together just to be antagonists for each other. And when we look at this dynamic for you, that's what it seems to be. all right? But that doesn't mean that you have to be negatively impacted by it. You can stand firmly in your identity. You can stand firmly in knowing who you are, even in the midst of their low vibration. You can stand because if you go out and you interact with the public at all, unless you're such an empath that you are knocked from pillar to post just by having close contact with someone. If that generally doesn't happen, then you should be able to maintain your identity even in the midst of these dynamics, knowing that you can have compassion for them and still not allow your vibration, not allow your resonance to be lowered. You don't have to become them. You are always you.